All right, welcome back. This is part 2 of my little lecture on the role of popular music in classical guitar repertoire. We were just talking in the first one about the function of music, and I said that there were 3 functions: ceremonial, recreational, and artistic. And I just wanted to add one thing to the artistic aspect of music. And I believe that music is autonomous. It stands on its own. It doesn't need to be an adornment to something else. So this to me is a really important facet of the function of art music, in that it doesn't need to have anything else to be useful. All right, but let's move on. This is bullet point number 4 now, and this is the value of music. Again, I see 3 primary areas here for the value of music. One, its artistic value. How does it? How do we appreciate this as art? We could say it has an aesthetic value or beauty, and those terms I'm going to actually try to come to grips with a little bit later on, because they're very sophisticated. The philosophical discussions on beauty and aesthetics take up many thousands of pages of writing of the greatest thinkers in history, and I won't pretend to understand all of it or to be able to encapsulate it all in a single thought in a short lecture like this. So I'm going to just stop there with this part of it until we get to that section later on. But backing up for a moment, the value of music, I believe it has 3 primary facets of value. One is an artistic value, the beauty, the quality inherent in the piece itself. Second is an economic value as a commodity. It also could be a service or a skill. And so I think a lot of music has value in this way, as a commodity. It also has a practical value as has a social function. It's entertainment or personal enhancement. So there's a lot of different ways of looking at the value of music, and I think we have to understand what we value in music. And this is changing in society, and even in our lifetime probably. And each of us individually may change in our views of what we value in music. I know for sure when I was younger, I valued music as its practical value for my own personal enhancement. I wanted to listen to it to tweak my emotions or to be entertained. But now, I don't need some sad song when I'm feeling down, or some happy song when I'm feeling up. I don't use it for that now. It's much more valuable to me for its beauty and its aesthetic value. So anyway, recapping that idea, I believe that there are 3 primary values in music, and that is artistic value, economic value, and a practical value. Once again, I feel like I need to describe all these things in order for me to get to my primary point about including popular music in our repertoire. So hang in there with me as I get through these. Okay, let's move on. This is number 5. Number 5, the changing value of music. So here's a good deal of what I read in aesthetics and the art of beauty, and I'll show you this. Actually, it's a very great book for you to look at sometime if you'd ever like. All right, this book I've spent many hours, countless hours, trying to understand selected readings in the philosophies of art and beauty, but this ranges from Plato to Heidegger, and so it really takes us up to into the late 19th century. Most of the 20th century people didn't discuss beauty and art and aesthetics so much, so it gives us all the classics here. But anyway, if you're interested, this is one of the books to check out. Anyway, from that, I tried to condense down into the primary modes of thought in the changing value of music. First off, I do believe that art music had a greater role in the past, and this is pretty easy to understand when you look at the number and types of people going to art music concerts today versus in past years. It used to be the thing that everybody knew about. If you were in the know and, you know, a mover and shaker, you wouldn't say, hey, did you go to the Batman movie? Which is what we would say today. And everybody would say, oh yeah, I went to the Batman movie or the Star Wars movie. You knew what's coming out in movies. Most people are up on that. They're hip to these trends. And that used to be the same with art music, where people would say, hey, have you gone to the Stravinsky showing of The Rite of Spring or whatever? Most people knew about it and they were into it and they engaged in it, but that is not true anymore of most modern music that's being created. So I believe art music had a greater role in the past than it does today. Next, live performance by the performer-composer used to be the common experience. So Bach wrote music and played it for people to hear. So the composer was also the performer. This made music an immediate experience from the creator directly to the listener. And also at that time, I'm talking about everything from basically several thousand years ago up to maybe 1800 or late 1700s. All through that time, the performer and composer were usually one and the same, and live performance was the only experience of music. And it was usually done in sacred spaces, churches, and later on recital halls and theaters. Also, during this time period, consonants, harmonious sounds, were the favored or preferred sonority over dissonance or harsher grating sounds that didn't go well together. And so this is the concept of beauty is usually in how pleasing or pleasant something sounds. And so beauty as a concept was revered and sought in musical compositions. They tried to make them beautiful, which meant more consonants and controlled dissonances, which were used to basically give us back to consonants over and over again. So that whole idea of beauty in music is bound up in consonants primarily. If we move forward to the 18th and 19th century, something started to change in music. First and foremost, printed sheet music gave us a very different experience of music, where the performer-composer now could be removed from the immediate situation, and it allowed music to happen more at the listener's discretion. A very important point here. So the listener could now choose when to experience music. They could play it on an instrument, piano, guitar, whatever, and by purchasing a piece of sheet music, they could play it when they felt like it. So now we've removed the performer, composer, the one and the same, Bach as a performer, composer, let's say, or to use guitar examples, let's say Fernando Sor or Mauro Giuliani in this time period. Now these guys are less and less called upon as performers, and now more and more called upon to write sheet music. So again, the experience of music is changing because the person listening to music now is probably playing it themselves on their instrument, which gave rise to a huge amateur market. Now, more and more music is being designed for the amateur listener because they're also the performer, so they don't have the skills of a Bach or Fernando Sor or Giuliani, etc. So printed music becomes a commodity that is greatly valued by large masses of people, which means the music is also simplified to a certain degree, not all, but lots, simplified so that typical person of modest skill can play it. Okay, let's take a pause here and move to our next video. So again, I'm trying to keep these under 10 minutes, so join me in the next one, segment 3. All right, we'll come back.